Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCreadys.
What do the feds want with the Weedmaps records? We're going to find out about that. Alaska may become the first state to license on-site marijuana consumption. That's a big deal. Andrew has some tips on treating a common cannabis-related ailment. But first, now, fellas, I don't know if you've heard of this yet. It hasn't really been in the news much, but there's this thing. It's called coronavirus. Have you heard anything about that?
No, not really.
Corona.
It kind of got buried in the news cycle, but apparently people are getting sick from this, and it's having quite an impact on everything, including...
Okay, we might say today is the 10th, March 10th.
March 10th.
So when this airs next week, we don't know. It might be ancient history, or it might be some, some really serious
zombie
stuff.
apocalypse.
I just want to make that.
So we're either real current or nostalgic, one of the two.
Right.
But it's also impacting the marijuana industry. Ain't that right, Mr. McCreadys?
That is true. Not only impacting, it's impacting a lot of industry. I mean, look, they just closed the South by Southwest. They're talking about, there's all these college sporting events that are that they're not having any audience members. I mean, they're
right. Basketball games with empty stadiums. And,
because they don't want to get large crowds together. Yeah,
and South by Southwest, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
right. And they're talking about they're also talking about the Olympics as well. I mean, there's a bunch. This is getting kind of serious.
Yep.
And it is very serious. So, but as far as the cannabis industry, it's definitely going to have its effect on the supply chain, because it's going to, if there's certain regions, especially Washington State. Now, the thing about it is going to affect the state of Washington probably heavily, because so many people might be out of work, and some of these processors and growers are not going to have the manpower, so the supply is not going to be able to meet demand, or will have an effect on the supply chain. So you're going to see that, as well as another thing you're going to see is apparently, like, the vape cart industry is more of a hardware thing than the actual vape liquid. Vape liquid is easy.
Yeah, most of them are made in China, right?
Right. Most of these, they are. So that could really affect whether it be the actual manufacturers of the vape cart or someone who supplies the vape cart manufacturers with just like raw metal. Let's say, I'm sorry, that
the heating unit.
Yeah, that supply is going to be 2 weeks late,
right?
Or something.
Right.
So that, and the snowball effect, now that could have its effect all the way across.
So definitely disruptions.
Absolutely. Another thing that we're going to see about this is people are going to be less likely when you're smoking, when you're socially medicating. You will be less likely to share joints or bongs or pipes with someone you don't want to have like mouth to mouth.
That would be true. I don't know. I wouldn't have any problem with sharing a joint, but
I know I've seen that. I've seen that in the last couple. Really, actually, it was within the last few weeks.
Especially if it's your weed.
Somewhere, a guy was like, "Nah, it's good. I'm just going to I don't want to share joints. I just want to just keep their own."
Especially if it's your weed. Is that what you said, Jay? I don't want to share it. Fuck you.
Well, you're not me. I've always been. If I ever had a doobie, I would share it with anyone.
Yeah.
I always share with my friends. That's one of the wonderful things about cannabis is it's always
a social thing. It's like drinking, So there's a social aspect.
So I have a question for both of you. Do you think we'll still be talking about the coronavirus, say, a month from now?
I think not so much. It'll still be. It won't be dominating the news. And I mean, it's all anybody's talking about.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not
because I'd hate to see it get really bad. Because the thing about it is, I think a lot of people can get it and not have any problems with it, but it's easily transferable. So it's the people that are at high risk that could get it. Now that's the problem. If all of a sudden, like I just came the last 10 years, I spent going to a nursing home every day, to visit my mom, and I can only imagine what's going on there today.
Right.
Right.
I stopped going there in December, and I'm actually thinking about going by just to say hi, but I don't know.
But
this
if you
coronavirus.
put this into the perspective on this for me is comparing it to the flu, which you get every single year. And now there's a couple of differences. You can get a flu shot. You can't get a corona shot. Not yet, anyway.
True. Right.
But the flu shot, even at that, is kind of hit or miss. Even with the flu shots available, the number of people who get sick and the number of deaths from it, way, way more than the coronavirus. I mean, by a factor of 5 or 10 or something like that. It's a lot. Well, and nobody ever says, nobody goes through this kind of panic with the flu.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, the other way it could have, it's definitely going to have an effect. And you're going to see this. This is kind of scary. You think people are hoarding toilet paper?
Yeah.
I mean, the dispensary shelves in some states, you're going to see people going and just like they're going to start buying up their Macs.
Right. I need bread and milk and sour diesel.
Right.
I run it out.
I'm hoping if I get the coronavirus that I also get Lyme's disease. Okay. Not even a fucking chuckle.
Seen that all over the internet. Sorry. My wife sent me a picture about an hour ago. She went to Walmart to go grocery shopping. Yeah. And the aisle with the toilet paper and paper towels, I swear to God, not a single thing on the whole shelf.
Man, it's just panic. It's hysteria.
It's going to affect weed too, man. What would you rather be out of, weed or toilet paper?
Weed.
Definitely.
You'd rather be out of weed than toilet paper?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You could always use, like paper towels or...
You can't smoke a paper towel.
Or you can always use a shower curtain.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or just go gorilla.
Man, that's a tough room tonight, guys. Man, shower curtain, that's some funny shit. Oh, man. You guys are just... What kind of shit? You still smoking that Jamaican shit?
Yeah, I'm too mellow. Inside, I'm rolling, really. It's good stuff. No, but the other part of this is that there's a lot of the ancillary businesses that get disrupted in the cannabis supply chain. I mean, just like when we talk about South by Southwest, it's not just the fact that conference or the event. The event is going to close down. That means the people who are counting on the restaurants, the hotels, the airlines, the Ubers, all of the ancillary stuff.
Taco truck outside the convention hall. Yeah. Everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's true.
And especially those guys, because they're, they might compensate some people or try to help some of these people out, but it's those small guy, little independent guys.
Right,
or
the souvenir stand.
Those guys, they're not going to get, the guy out there hustling on the street, right. Before every sporting event, those guys out there, and I go to a lot of Ravens games. These guys are out there selling peanuts or like sodas or bottles of water out of their like coolers. And there are a bunch of guys that you can tell live in the neighborhood.
Yeah, right.
And they're sure, man. If we're parking in your street, I'll buy shit from you, man. Sure.
Right.
Thanks for putting up with our shit.
If you enjoy the show, we'd love to hear from you. Send us your thoughts at VoteProPot.com/contact or send us an email at podcast@VoteProPot.com and please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to be part of the show, call our message line at 240-257-2441. Tell your friends about us and be sure to like, follow and share us on social media. Just go to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter and do a search for Vote Pro Pot. Now, back to the boys.
So I know we've covered this story to death, but I'm going to cover it again. That is California and its regulations and its struggle against the black market. So I saw an article today at MaryJane.com by Chris Moritz. Really good. It says California lags behind Colorado and Oregon's adult use markets in weed sales. So for 2 years, they've had legal adult use in California, right?
Now, this is legal weed sales.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
And they lag far behind other adult use states. In 2019, California's per capita cannabis sales amounted to about $70 a customer, I should say. $70 per customer. Now, that's according to a report, a study done by Marijuana Business Daily. This figure lags far behind the second-year sales figures of other adult use states, Colorado's second year sales reached $99 per capita. Oregon sales were $97 per capita, and Washington State was $89 per capita. So there's a pretty big discrepancy there, and you have to kind of step back and look at that. And we've talked about, obviously, the issues with taxes and the fees and all that, and that's definitely a huge part of it. But there's more to it than that.
Okay.
Which you realize looking at the part of it is California is a huge state, and it's really spread out. Some more numbers here. California legal weed industry made nearly $2.8 billion in sales last year. That's 2019. And that's about double what it did the year before at $1.5 billion. But the predictions for 2019 were, by most experts, were around $4 billion.
Okay.
So they were far shy of that.
Right.
If California's per capita sales were on par with Washington and Oregon, that, call it $98 a person, they would have done about $4 billion.
Okay.
So again, we're going to look at that. Why?
So it's like half, right?
Yeah, almost, almost half. The state's thriving black market is largely to blame for that. And we've talked about that enough. We don't really have to go into that anymore. The black
Isn't
market,
the black market twice the size of the legal market in California?
It's 3 times. The black market did $9 billion approximately. That's the estimate.
So the legal market accounts for 25% of cannabis sales.
Yeah,
what I'd like
30.
to see is the trend line on it. Is the black market trending up, and is the legal market trending down?
That's a great question, and it's steady. Now,
Steady.
one of the other, looking at other, I mean, obviously the taxes and the fees, we've talked about that. They're ridiculous. They're insane. But there's more to it than that. And part of it is just the simple size of California and the population. It's so big. And what you have to look at is that the state's adult use law, California's law, allows individual governments to opt out. So a jurisdiction within California can say, we don't want it legal here.
That's right. You can have a dry
We don't
county.
want any dispensaries here. And
So there's probably areas aside of Rhode Island or small states
larger,
that are cannabis deserts.
70% of California municipalities have chosen to opt out. 70%.
Wow.
So that means only a third of the municipalities in California have legal weed. The rest of them don't allow it within their municipalities. So that's huge.
So they voted to continue the black market.
Essentially. Exactly.
Yeah.
And because of those bans in these jurisdictions, nearly 40%. So you have to look at the population centers too, of course. LA, it's legal, and that's the
Huge.
vast majority.
San Francisco,
right?
those are the big
San
ones.
Francisco. But 40% of all Californians live 60 to 120 miles away from a dispensary, a retailer. So think about that for a minute. 2 hours, you're two to 2.5 hours away from a dispensary. What are you going to do?
You're going to buy from the black market.
You're going to buy it from the guy you've been buying it from for 20 years.
Right.
Delivery.
Right.
Can't they? They were talking about in California.
They have delivery.
Loosening up the delivery laws because there's wide areas. If you had a couple guys in vans,
Right.
they could service.
And they've done that, but it tax even more money onto the price. That's the problem.
I also wonder what effect the apparently California's population is not increasing. There's a net loss in population over the last several years.
Degree.
People are leaving California.
According to a new report by Marijuana Business Daily, California only has 993 licensed retailers and delivery services, accounting for 1.4 stores for every 100,000 residents. In comparison,
that's crazy.
Oregon has 15.5 stores for every 100,000.
Wow.
Colorado has 10, and Washington has 6. So California has less than 1.5 stores per 100,000 people, and Oregon has 15.5. So they have 12 times as many stores per people. So that's another huge
It's like
factor.
Starbucks up there. Yeah.
But getting back to the government, and we'll close out with this, California's answer to this issue has not been what it should be: to lower taxes, lower costs, allow for more dispensaries. What they've done is called in the National Guard to crack down on the illegal guys, which is exactly the wrong thing. I mean, I understand.
Right. Which has worked so well over the years.
They're not looking at the market. They're not looking at the market as a resolution to the problem. they're just going to go, black booted.
Guns a-blazing, right.
Guns a-blazing, arrest these guys who have probably been doing this on smaller scales. They're not the drug cartel. Most of these are guys like Andrew talks about. They have a farm with a couple acres, and they've been growing weed for 30 years and selling it, and they just can't.
They're selling to the same guys for 30 years.
And they can't meet all those stupid-ass regulations, and they can't make the move to make the decision that, you know what, we're going to go ahead and pay $1 million and get our license.
Be legitimate.
Right. They're like, fuck it, let's just keep doing what we've been doing, and we're making money. We're not getting super rich. So I thought that was kind of a curious update on California. Some of that stuff I hadn't thought of before.
Well, speaking of California, something's happened. Weedmaps the federal government has cracked down on Weedmaps, and they're going after their records. They want to find out more information about the cannabis companies that do business with Weedmaps. Now, if you're not familiar with what Weedmaps is, in 2008, Weedmaps started off, and it's an online platform for people to advertise their cannabis companies. Now, starting in 2008, a lot of it was just on the West Coast, but now it's like all of the United States and Canada. And I know here in Maryland, you go to Weedmaps and lists all the dispensaries and every dispensary's all their menus. You can place orders for pickup through them, do all kinds of searches, and all the companies
like
are advertising.
Yelp for weed.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Kind of. Yeah. Not really, but kind of.
But in California, what happened was, for the longest time, a lot of delivery services, and I'm doing the quotes with my fingers, were
we can see them, but you can't.
Right. They were advertising on Weedmaps, and they were the black market. Now, the feds came in and on September 19th of last year and issued them with a subpoena a grand jury subpoena saying, we want your records. Yeah. Now, since then, Weedmaps has self-policed themselves, and they got rid of the majority, I believe, the overwhelming majority of the people that you had to show that you had a license to dispense marijuana to get on Weedmaps, which is the responsible thing to do.
Yeah,
but for the longest time, I'm pretty sure those people were kind of Weedmaps bread and butter, and I think they sort of
let it slide.
Yeah, they let it slide, and I don't know how much or if there's any of them still left, because they're saying there's sort of some conditions in which there are some of these illegal companies still advertising. Because then Weedmaps is going, what's the difference between us and Facebook? Facebook, I mean, they sell illegal stuff on, people are representing illegal things there. I mean, and why are we held responsible? Because people on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, they're not being held responsible. Well, but then it turns out, they said the government says, well, you're kind of validating their companies when you help place orders,
Right. So this is the federal government moving in.
Yeah.
And wow.
Right. Now, during the Obama and Trump administrations, the federal government has been like, well, we're not going to go after state license operations, even though they may not be legal federally. If they're operating legally on the state level, we're going to leave them alone. But here are companies that are operating illegal federally and on the state level.
Right.
And some people are saying the only reason that there's... the only reason that, because I think there's still some of these, are still advertising on the internet, and especially on Weedmaps. In California specifically, I believe.
Isn't it kind of a ballsy thing to do, though, if you're an illegitimate operation to advertise on the internet?
Yeah,
like that. I mean, in a place where legitimate people go.
So a lot of people are saying the reason they're sort of still letting them do it is because the law enforcement are just using it as a place to find people operating illegally and busting them.
The rest.
It's just making the law enforcement's jobs easy.
Yeah.
Well, I remember doing stories months ago, maybe a year ago, about this very topic, in that Weedmaps had volunteered to, clean their rolls. Did they do that, though? Have they?
Yeah, they did, but the time has come and gone, and now some people are worried that, I don't know, there's been some rumors that now the feds are going to be coming down harder, I believe, or something. But
I see.
But we just sometimes have to worry about this, because also something that happened this week was the new chief of staff is, what's his name? The congressman from North Carolina. Yes, he's definitely on record as being staunchly against marijuana.
Yeah.
So, I think we're sort of worried about, how the feds are kind of what they're going to do.
Yeah, he's got more influence than power as chief of staff. A lot of influence, not a lot of power.
Well, I think they're trying to comply. They're trying to, because they're definitely serve. They're a legitimate business that are serving a niche and doing a great job of it. I think they're a great company. It's great, man. I use Weedmaps all the time. see what's on sale, see what's going on, see what the deals are. It's great.
I have a couple of state stories here for you, fellas. South Dakota, one of the poorest regions in the U.S., might get a big financial boost soon. A report on NBC4 in South Dakota found out that Oglala Sioux tribe, which is a Native American tribe in South Dakota, will vote this week on legalizing marijuana on their tribal land. If the measure passes and is adopted by the tribe, it will be the first time a Native American tribe has legalized cannabis in a state without a legal marijuana program.
Okay.
And not only South Dakota, but Nebraska, Wyoming, neighboring states don't have legal either. So the question is, will folks be able to, head onto the reservation and do a little gambling in the casino and buy a couple joints?
Some weed? And the other question is, how will the feds treat it? Will they treat it like a legal state and leave it alone?
I think they have to.
I think they kind of have to, right?
They definitely should.
They definitely should. Agree.
Native American, we shouldn't be telling the Native Americans what they should do on their land. I really don't think.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Weed, man, they should do all they want. If that's
they should have their freedom
to it. As long as they do it responsibly, right? I think
which they do. Yeah. So right now, with the surveys and a few polls they've done, it's very much pro cannabis legalization on the reservation, but some of the elders are not all that on board. So I don't think anybody's really sure which way the vote's going to go. So it'll be interesting to see. They're voting on a few things. One of the pushes that they're making to encourage the older elders to vote pro is obviously the same as the casinos. The money,
as opposed to the younger elders.
Yes. Thank you for correcting that. So we'll see what happens. My other story is on the state of Alaska.
Oh, that little corner of the world there, yeah.
That little corner of the world up there. Alaska is officially the first state to license on-site marijuana consumption at cannabis stores. Yay! I read this in Marijuana Moment today. It's by Chris Roberts.
Yeah, throw a little applause in there.
Yeah, no kidding. That's awesome, man. There are a few dispensaries in California that allow you to consume your cannabis in a dispensary, but they're only in San Francisco and in their local ordinances. Okay. They're not, it's not a state law. It's a local ordinance. So Alaska's talking about making it a state law. And so
you can't do that in Colorado.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So the way I understand it'll work here in Alaska is you will get a permit to open a dispensary, for example, and there's a second permit you can apply for that allows you to consume on the property. So under the new rules, consumption areas would have to be physically separated from retail spaces, either by a wall or by a secure door or an outside patio. That's an interesting part of the law because everywhere else to date, it is illegal to smoke outside on private property like that. You can't go outside and
cannabis.
Smoke cannabis, right? Huh.
So they're basically saying if there's like a deck where people are smoking cigarettes, go fire up some joints.
That's what it seems to be, yeah. So we shall see. So that's a step because that's one of the things I think would be really cool. Now Nevada has a couple as well, but again, it's local jurisdiction. It's not part
not
of the
statewide. Right,
not part of the state law.
So you'll be able to go to these establishments and smoke cannabis. And you know what happens sometimes when you smoke cannabis, Phil? Do you know what happens sometimes?
You get high?
Well, that and also you get Cottonmouth. Oh. The dreaded Cottonmouth. Has anyone ever?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, I get it. You don't even have to smoke it.
Right. Now, this is true. Now, a new study came out, and apparently there's an article in High Times. They're talking about how Cottonmouth you can get Cottonmouth from cannabis, not just from smoking, but also from vaping and from edibles.
Yeah, I get them all from all three.
As it turns out, right. See, now Cottonmouth is something called, it's a dry mouth syndrome or something called xerostomia.
Xerostomia.
Which is what they called in the medical community.
There is a clinical word for Cottonmouth. I like that.
Right,
cool.
Right. And it turns out what happens is not only just smoking, but vaping and eating, you get it. Because what happens is the cannabinoids somehow get into the receptors close to your Salivary glands.
Salivary
glands. Yes.
No, not-
Salivary glands.
Salivary, not Salvador Dali.
What are you, a fucking doctor?
Anyway.
I did not know you could get cottonmouth from edibles, but now that you
can.
say it, I noticed it.
Right.
Cottonmouth is how I know that whatever I've taken has taken effect. Like sometimes, I hit a joint, 3 or 4 minutes later, I feel the full effects. And but if I've had a gummy or something like that, an hour later, I don't feel anything. When I start feeling something, I'm getting cottonmouth. That's how I know it's working.
You're right. I hadn't even thought about it, but you're right.
And then not only does THC give it to you, but CBD also does.
Oh, really?
So you can not even really be high if you're doing a CBD product and get cottonmouth.
You get the cottonmouth entourage.
So what do you do when you get cottonmouth? So obviously you stay hydrated. You should be drinking before your smoke sesh, or before, during, and after. I think that's sort of a given.
Sounds reasonable.
Makes sense.
Now, so not only, and I think water is the best thing to do, but obviously people also enjoy many different things. Now, there's another thing you can do. There are mouthwashes specifically designed to combat dry mouth syndrome, right? So
I've heard of them.
You can get those.
Yep.
And so some of those might help, which I never heard about. The other one are hard candies, or like a sour candy, like a
Jolly Rancher or something.
Jolly Rancher. So something that activates the saliva glands and get them going. Now, the bad thing about cottonmouth that if you let it dry out, it can have an adverse effect on your teeth, and it also it will dry out, it'll go down your throat as well, and eventually give you bad breath.
Yeah, halitosis.
Halitosis, right?
Right, man.
Well, good to know. Wow, we are really bringing some valuable information to our listeners tonight.
And the other thing they said you should do is breathe out of your nose and not your mouth. So all your mouth breathers out there.
And when I know I have cottonmouth and I'm feeling self-conscious, that's what I do.
Well, they also say a humidifier can help too, which I think that's sort of that's
on
a stretch,
serious
if you ask
note.
me.
On a not so serious note, I notice sometimes if I take too many gummies, I tend to drink too much.
Alcohol?
Alcohol?
Yes. And that's what it is. It's like, God, I'm thirsty. I'm going to have one more glass of wine, one more beer. Yeah, no, I do. And that's funny. I never really thought about that, Andrew. You're just a wealth of information.
Absolute cornucopia of information.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if you have any insights onto this, any comments about this, if you're from Alaska and you want to weigh in on this cool new statewide on-site license.
Oh, wait. Nobody listens to us in South
Although, speaking of statewide
all of those guys
stuff,
over in South Dakota. Oh, yeah, they're not there.
Speaking of statewide stuff, we got some primary elections coming up that we're going through right now. And the problem with our show is that we record it and then we don't air. It doesn't come out until sometimes 4 or 5 days later. Right. But so we've been through Super Tuesday, and now tonight there's a big election.
Yeah. It's like 2.0 Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right. It's a small, not so Super Tuesday. So what do you guys have to say about that? Now, apparently, my opinion is that, because we talked about this, some months ago about, is cannabis going to be an issue in the upcoming elections?
I'm not hearing much about it.
Now, Jay, didn't you have a recording of the response from the Biden campaign about when they asked about cannabis?
This
you want to play that?
Yeah, this is what Joe Biden said.
Okay, that more or less sums up what we hear about from a lot of the candidates. Although Bernie likes weed, he says he's going to legalize it.
Yeah,
the first 100 days or whatever,
and it'll be free.
That's right.
I don't know.
He's going to make it free.
It's going to make it. Well, no, I think health fits. If you have a legitimate health concern, your health insurance should pay for your weed.
In my booze.
And I believe that marijuana is a human right and not a privilege.
Okay, so what? Who else? I mean,
well, everybody pretty much dropped out this week except for
and they all endorsed Biden.
Well, I think Biden is eventually. I don't know. I have a feeling if it crosses his desk, he might sign it. I don't know. I really do.
I think you're probably right. I think he.
I think he's realistic enough to go. Yeah, guys.
Or whoever's pulling his puppet strings would sign.
Right. If he remembers how to sign his name.
So who do you think they're going to be the running mates? Who would you like to see be the running mates?
I think that Liz Warren might end up being Bernie's if he gets the nomination. Although I think he's fallen behind now.
She shredded him in that debate though a couple weeks ago, man.
Well, she shredded Bloomberg, really.
Bloomberg,
yeah,
more.
She shredded. Well,
she's a good debater.
She's very good. Yeah, she's very good.
But
do you think Amy
Klobuchar?
Yeah.
Do you think she might?
She might be for Biden. I think what's the woman from Georgia, Stacey Abrams, is like high on a lot of people's list. She checks a lot of boxes for the Democrats.
Well,
apparently.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I think she's pretty tough. I always liked her.
Yeah,
she dropped out early on though for some reason. She couldn't
get traction for some reason.
Well, you know what? There's some people that know what the hell they're doing. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you can be a good politician and not be a good campaigner. You know?
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
It's a talent.
I know in the restaurant business, one of the big mistakes the restaurateurs do when they expand and it doesn't succeed, they try too hard for too long. They just end up losing money. They don't go, this ain't going to work, and they don't give up when they go.
Yeah, throw good money after bad. Yeah, she may have realized that this is not her.
That's what I thought.
I have a feeling, for me, I think her constituents, the problem is what she did as a career completely conflicts with what she was trying to run on. And that, what I mean by that, she was a prosecutor putting a lot of African Americans in jail for weed.
Now here's the thing. Now here's the thing about that. I believe. Now we've been trying to change people's minds on Vote Pro Pot for years, right? Now, so when someone does change their mind and goes, on second thought, I will do it. We could say, listen, hey, you're a hypocrite because you used to say you didn't.
She was doing her job.
You're right, Andrew. You gotta encourage that sort of mind change.
And if she does, of all people, great. Here's a woman who used to put people in jail for it, and she's changed her mind.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I agree with you. Yeah,
but I think not everybody sees it that way in the Democratic Party. I think there are a lot of constituents who are just they don't like that aspect.
The Democratic Party doesn't usually side on the prosecutorial background attorneys. You know what I mean? They tend to be the defense attorneys.
I guess.
She was a prosecutor. She's putting people in jail. And so anyway, I there's a lot of reasons, but I think that may have at least been part of it because she's obviously bright and well-spoken. And I
Democrats love to make laws. They just don't like to enforce them.
Listen to it.
What was I saying?
I think someone should get, maybe Biden should get Howard Stern to run with him. I think Howard Stern would be a great vice president.
I think Phil should run with him, but
I'm not going to run with Biden. I might let him be my running mate.
Phil should run for a county alderman or something.
Nah, you don't want me in that.
Why not?
Too many skeletons in his closet.
Nah, I'm abrasive. No, I don't know. It does.
No, you are not abrasive.
No, I don't think it would be something that I would enjoy.
I don't get
leave
politics.
it at that.
I like watching it, but I
like watching it. I like shooting my mouth off about it.
Me too, but
I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to do it. It's hard.
I think the people that do it I think it takes a certain kind of personality, man, and it's a narcissistic kind of.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an asshole in there.
You gotta be a bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
It'd be great if we had politicians that weren't assholes.
Not that everybody who gets into politics is an asshole. There's some nice people. No, well,
that would be great, Andrew. You're right.
But that's like saying we need to get musicians who aren't egotistical, who aren't show-offs. That's part of the deal.
Well, not really. That's not true. There's a bunch of musicians that
are humble.
Now, are they successful?
They're eating tuna fish sandwiches too.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap.
All right, so. Well, I started to say something about contacting us. You know how to do it. VoteProPot.com. Go ahead, Jay.
Call our message line at 240-257-2441.
Seriously, just do it.
Just do it. Interacting with our audience is what keeps us doing this, so please reach out to us.
We love our audience, God damn it.
Yeah, we try to talk a lot about what's going on in the cannabis world every week, but there's so much going on. We can't even scratch the surface on the podcast. So we share a lot on social networking. So please go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter and do a search for, wait for it, Vote Pro Pot.
Lock me up, find me good, label me a quiet neighborhood. I don't grow no plants. The state says I can't. That's not freedom. 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 That's the point. Smoke a bowl. I roll a joint. Do what I want. If I hurt nobody, that's the point. And if I want to get high, why shouldn't I? That's not freedom. 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 That's the point. Decide what's best for you and me. Smoke a bowl or roll a joint. Do what you want. If it hurts nobody, that's the point. So let's get high. Yeah, you and I. It's called freedom. It's called freedom, freedom, freedom. Oh yeah, that's the point.